love San Francisco, and I'm always trying to, explore what those places mean, who those people are. I try not to make those tourist photos looking up at big buildings. I try to photograph the locals, not the tourists. The places I generally photograph, I've been multiple times to the point where I get to know them. And I have these moments where I see something and I have to photograph it. For example, I made this image in New York City, in Manhattan, and I see this man in a straw hat and a suit, and he's hunched over, and it reminded me of Death of a Salesman. But more importantly, it reminded me of my father's father, and the idea that he was, at the end of his life, hunched over. He had worked incredibly hard, and here was a guy that looked like he was this hard-working man. And so I realized that even the experiences of past generations get funneled through into my own way of seeing the world through the stories, to where I saw this man and I had to photograph him because I don't have photographs of my grandfather late in life. We didn't live near him, and yet I'm able to make these photographs that relate to him. The progression of my career and as an artist has really been about trying to figure out what it means to be creative. Part of that exploration is looking at things such as originality, such as spontaneity. And I realized that in order for me to create anything that's original, it has to come from my own background, and that the only thing that's original in our lives is how we see the world. And as I've explored human perception, I've explored how do I see the world, how does my brain function, and you realize that we build a mental model of our world from our very earliest childhood. Over the last few years, as I've endeavored to figure out what's really original about the photography of Ira Gardner, I've adopted more of an exploration of my roots. I've photographed the environments, both the urban and the rural environments that I've lived in. I'm oftentimes photographing people. I'm oftentimes trying to do it without their prior knowledge, so I can get this authentic moment of people behaving without an awareness of the camera, being themselves. And then if they see me, I have to be able to respond to that and say, this is this amazing moment I saw, and here's what I'm going to do with it, and this is who I am. Even though my work is really a lot of it's autobiographical, memory, perception, that's where the originality is coming from in my work, in that I had to know myself, how I see the world, why I see the world, and document that as the only way to do something that's authentic, that I'm not copying. And if you look at advertising, you look at the typical, photography, landscape, it all has a particular look and feel to it. And I want to break through that, and the only way I can do that is by pulling from who I am and sharing the unique, we all have these life experiences. It's just the intensity, the variety, the trajectory of our lives are all unique. We talk about every snowflake being unique. Well, it's our lives that are unique, so if I'm looking for something original, it has to come from there. So people looking at my work might go, oh, well, I'm reading the autobiography of Ira, but that's really not what the intent of the work is, and I hope that's not the only experience that they have. My purpose in showing the work is not so much about myself as much as it's kind of like this quote of the artist Roy Lichtenstein, who's attributed as saying that no matter how long the telescope, one end has to always be exactly the size of the human eye. And so what I'm trying to do by applying a camera, a lens, making a photograph, particularly these black and white photographs that aren't the way we see the world, what I'm trying to do is create this gap, this philosophical gap that allows the viewer to experience these images and bring about their own thoughts and feelings and their own life experience, their own meaning to those imagery. But because there's a structure, there's a design, there's a relationship to the imagery, they're being asked to consider where do they fit in and how we're all connected as human beings.